What's up, guys? It's another Teach Me Tuesday. And guess what? Is now a good time to buy or should I wait? That is the question. Everybody's waiting on something lower interest rates, lower prices, more inventory. But the real question is, what is waiting actually costing you? What's up, guys? Let's get right into this. I think this is a great topic, something that I get asked a lot. But I want to ask you guys,
Mhm.
Gavin and LaShawn, what are you hearing right now from most buyers about why they might be waiting?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start it off, guys. A lot of what I'm hearing, and I just left a very informative meeting not too long ago, and a lot of it has to do with affordability.
Mm,
A lot of people, definitely are being, hit in their pockets when it comes to, I mean, the big elephant in the room is gas. The
yeah.
cost of gas, you got the cost of living, you got the cost of childcare, you got the cost of, add it all
Yeah.
up. So a lot of time people are, truly pondering, is right now the right time to buy with everything else being so expensive? Where do I fit my housing,
Mm,
goals into that
Mhm.
equation? And I think it's leaving a lot of people stuck because, to some people it may be cheaper to rent, but to others, they may can, truly buy a house and reap the benefits of what that looks like. But everybody's situation is a little different. Right now, it definitely still costs to purchase a home. It's not free to do so. So it requires the planning and preparation, the saving, the budgeting, credit rebuilding if people need help in those areas. And sometimes that can become overwhelming.
right. That's a good one. Cost of gas, man. Unless you drive an electric car,
I forgot you got an electric car.
understand.
You don't feel our
Yeah.
pain.
I do feel it. I put gas. I got a truck, and I put gas in my truck. Yesterday, it's like, dang, that thing
Yeah.
kept going up there. For it was like $4 a gallon, $4 or something a gallon for regular. So
Yeah, man.
definitely a challenge. I will say that. But guess what? Even if you rent, still gonna have to pay for those gas prices. I'm just
Yeah.
It's
saying.
true.
You know,
It's true.
Yeah,
um,
but man, but the jump in there and add on to what LaShawn was saying. I mean, I think affordability definitely is the biggest talking point right now. Is just everybody can't afford to purchase a home in today's
mm,
economy, especially here
mhm.
in South Carolina. I mean, I think the last kind of update and market update I seen was about 6 out of every 10 families in the
Mm.
state of South Carolina cannot afford to purchase a home.
Say
So
that one more
so
time.
Almost 6 out of every 10 families are
mhm.
not
Wow.
able to afford to
Wow,
purchase a home. And
wow.
that's not just thinking from a standpoint of a dual income household.
Right,
There's a lot of single family, like in terms of just a
right.
one income household, and it's because of where home prices are. And of course, this is the average throughout South Carolina. Of course, you have certain counties where home prices are lower, and then you have counties where home prices are higher. It's a big difference between downtown Charleston and Santee, Holly Hill, South Carolina. Um,
Good
so take
question.
that into consideration. But 6 out of 10 families are unable to afford the medium price of homes in the state of South Carolina.
So Gavin, that brings me to some numbers. I'm glad you brought that up about the median price point, right? So median sales price, I'm gonna give Orangeburg and I'm gonna also give Somerville,
Mhm.
just in case some anybody out there looking in those particular areas. Median price point right now in Orangeburg County is $230,000 compared to Somerville, which is almost a whopping $400,000
Oh
for
my
your
goodness.
your median price point. And let me
Mhm.
explain that now. It's not your average price point. Average price point is actually higher, okay?
Right.
Mm.
But your median price point is just the numbers in the middle. It doesn't take, the highest of the high and the lowest of the low into that equation just to kind of give you some perspective. This is actually it's pretty level from where it was last year. Okay. It didn't really go up much. So Orangeburg might have went up 0.4%, which is pretty
Mm.
close. Somerville went up 0.1%. So it's still like level from where it was, as far as, median price point. So
That's crazy. So, I mean, so you think about it, right? You said around 230 for
230.
Orangeburg
Uh-huh.
versus how much did you say for Somerville?
399 to be exact. 399,000.
399. I mean, that's
Right.
almost double. It's almost not quite double, but it's close to it. Like that's
50
that's a
miles
lot.
apart.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, for people to be able to do that. So, I mean, so with that being said, I'm gonna jump around just a little bit. Let's go to point number three. So what are the advantages? Are there any advantages, or do you feel like a lot of buyers and or sellers may be more at a disadvantage right now
Mhm.
with the way prices are, with where we are rate wise? And we'll kind of touch on rates before we wrap up today as well. But what are you guys thinking? Are there any advantages out there to truly, still moving forward, knowing where the prices of houses are today?
I would jump in there and say, yeah. I mean, I think there are always still advantages of home ownership. Um, to not be on the generic side, but to think outside of the box. I mean, first advantage is that you're finally able to own something if you can afford it, and you're able to build wealth, because we know that um, through real estate, that's one of the fastest generating wealth building tools that you can use, um, and sometimes make the minimum investment to do so, whether that's no down payment, that's a minimum down payment of 3.5%, 3%, or whatever, in regards to the loan program options. So being able to build equity and wealth over a period of time is definitely a reason to buy. Um, a benefit of buying. The other is, I mean, the right now, because of houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer, it's more the market is more stable. We aren't shifting to one side or the other. We're in the middle, so it's creating more competition for buyers. That is, to be able to go out there and negotiate, because people want to sell their homes, and if they're sitting on the market too long, they're going to now be more willing um, to either drop in price or offer certain incentives, and we see that we know builders are doing it left and right.
Yeah, I was
All the
gonna ask
incentives that
that.
they're throwing
I
at
was, I was gonna ask that to Wilma. I know Wilma, you just did a very good, workshop on new construction. So what I mean,
Mhm.
is that kind of the advantage is maybe going to a new build because there's more incentives?
Nah, I think it's across the board.
Mm,
Across the board with sellers. Okay.
mhm,
Gavin brought up a good point about days on market. Just to give you some numbers, this year in Orangeburg, homes are sitting on the market year to date 10% longer. Okay.
mm.
And Somerville is even 20% longer on
Mhm.
Oh,
days
wow.
on market. All right. So just to give you some perspective, when you have longer days on market, sellers are more willing to take less or give more incentives. Okay. So I think considering those things for a buyer standpoint, you can come to the negotiation table with maybe a lower offer, maybe some more asking for more closing costs. So just ask for more. So that's something I want buyers to think about in this particular market, because if it shifts and becomes a seller's market, you can't be that aggressive with sellers. So this is an opportunity, I believe, for the buyer.
I have a
Hmm.
question for you. I mean, what do you think drives a house to stay on the market longer, right? So if you said you have those
Hmm.
increases of 10 to 20% or something like that, what do you feel like, in your opinion, or if you have, the data that kind of supports that or the statistics that kind of supports that, like why are houses sitting a lot longer? Is it because we don't have qualified buyers or like what do you think?
Well, and Gavin, you know me, man. This is an economics,
Economics?
economics. So going back to the affordability thing, right?
Mm,
When something happens over here, it's a trickle effect to over here. But I do believe, of course, there's a lot of different factors why homes may sit on the market longer. Location is always a good one.
mm,
Condition of the
Mhm.
property is
Right.
another one. The type of home, is it desirable? I tell people, your 3 bed, 2 bath is like your sweet spot house. But then once you go lower than that, like a 3-1 or a
Mhm.
2-2 or something like that, something that's harder to sell, that might cause the home to stay on the market longer. So there's a lot of different factors. I will say this: great neighborhoods, great location with great condition home, they still sell. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm not saying that those particular homes, but on average or your median, their homes are sitting a little longer on the market year to date. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I agree. I agree with that for certain. I mean, I think a lot of sellers are missing out because they aren't willing to, you know, prepare the home properly to to sell.
Mhm.
Again, it boils down to what their motivation is, right? If they're
Right,
not,
right.
if they're not as motivated to sell quickly, then yeah, maybe they may not make the investment to, you know, painting these rooms or
Mhm,
fixing certain things prior to listing their homes, so that they
mhm,
can be more attractive and attract those buyers that are initially looking, as opposed to sitting back waiting on that perfect client who's like, well, yeah, I can deal with this, or I can deal with that. I can do this after buying the house, as opposed to preparing it for somebody who's looking immediately and taking advantage of that interest right then and there, because you've already done the work to get the house prepared. But again, not everybody can do that immediately as well.
Gavin,
Well, that's
I
good.
want
Okay.
I want to add one more thing. Gavin brought up something about sellers. Guess what? There are more sellers now. Okay, because
Mm.
there are more sellers now, you got more competition now.
Hmm.
When it comes to the seller side, buyers have more to pick from. Okay,
That's
so if
true.
your house is on that same street, when Johnny down there trying to sell his house too, you got to look at the competition. It's like, hey, Johnny house got a nice porch on the front, and then and he's like, but I got a deck on the back, but so you gotta look at those things that might influence a buyer to go either way. I have agents say, "Hey, how did the showing go?" Well, how did it go? I say, "Man, it's in its top three." So we giving stuff like that. When the conversation was different, before, it's like, how did the showing go? You got to offer in your box right now. Like, so it's a different conversation now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So before we wrap up today, I do want to talk about the interest rates, right? Because I think that's a big one when people are trying to make the decision, is now a good time to buy or should I wait, right? So let's talk about what about rates. So should buyers wait until interest rates drop, or should they kind of just, jump right in and kind of, what they say, marry the house and date the rate, right? Is kind
Hmm.
of the
Right.
new little phrase that's been floating around. In my opinion, I'll definitely let you guys tell me yours before we wrap up for today. I definitely think people should, don't get me wrong, rates do matter, but I think that people should still, move forward. I think it's the strategy that's in place. That's what's going to help people kind of feel more comfortable or overcome, whatever, their challenges may be, or their emotional ties to the mortgage payment, because I know that drives a lot of people's decision is what my mortgage payment is going to be because that rate drives the payment. But I think if you have the right strategy in place to either get seller concessions to do some rate buy downs or something like that, or look at some other type of loan programs that may be able to accommodate a lower rate, I think that that may be very beneficial to someone that may be on the fence. Do you guys want to add anything when it comes to the rate part? Do you guys kind of get that? I mean, I don't know, Wilma, do you get that a lot still, where people are, ask you, what my payment's going to be on this house, or what rates look like before they go see it, or do they see it first and then ask the question?
You know, I it's funny. I asked them
Okay.
about where you want your monthly payment. Where can you handle a comfortable monthly payment? And I tell them, I say, all right, now I'm not talking about, saying $500 a month. I'm not saying that
Uh-huh.
now, but I do ask them that because I can kind of gauge where they might be, what kind of a house they might be able to afford. Okay. So
Okay.
so I kind of beat them to that question a little bit, just to kind of fill them out as far as,
Mhm,
where they what kind of home they could possibly afford. Yeah.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Gavin, take us home with this rate question. I mean, I know that you deal with the rate side a lot because usually you're, assisting clients when it's time to lock their rate in and we're talking about pricing and all of that stuff. Do you feel that people are comfortable with where rates are, or do you get a lot of pushback like, oh, can I get the rate any lower? What are
I mean, people always, just naturally they want, they want lower rates because, especially first time home buyers, because their experience through home ownership is with people who may have recently bought, who have
Mhm,
recently purchased in the past few years, and we're coming off of COVID years where rates were in the historically lows, 2.5%, 3%,
Mm,
and so they're they're wondering, looking at people, their friends on social media and things that purchased homes years ago, and like, man, we work at the same place. How Tom and John can
mhm.
afford that, and I
Come on,
can't
John.
afford it right now. Like,
Come on, Tom.
well, they did have a lower interest rate, or the home prices were lower than, so there are various different things. But I think
Right.
in general, people want lower rates. But the ones when those who are serious about home ownership, and are really, truly trying to make a decision to buy, they're understanding when we go over rates and when we talk to them about, hey, this is where rates are. What was experienced a few years ago was an anomaly. Rates are stabilizing, and we're in a stable market, in terms of interest rates averaging right around 6 to 6.5%.
Mm,
Um, and that's just where we are. So you playing double dutch, waiting to jump in, thinking that you can jump in at a certain time when rates drop. That's not the right now. Can't speak for the foreseeable future, but right now rates are where they are and they're here to stay. So
ooh,
that's what my end is.
we got one thing to add with what Gavin said. Um, I'm sorry, guys. I'm excited, but yeah, people say that I'm gonna wait the rates drop. But let me tell you something. I want you to look at a chart of home prices. Okay,
mhm.
all right. You can wait for that rate to drop, but guess what? That house price, it ain't gonna drop with the rate drop. Okay.
There
Mhm.
you go.
So something to consider. All right. So I mean, like she said, you like Gavin LaShawn said, you can always refinance. Okay. But I can't guarantee that house price is gonna come back to where it's at now. So yeah.
That's such a great point. So, guys, so to wrap up for today, thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of Teach Me Tuesday. So, don't make the decision don't make the decision based on headlines right now. You want to make sure you talk to a lender, talk to a
Mhm.
realtor, get educated, and make sure that you have a plan to position yourself better in the future. So, we will see you guys next week, and we thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.